Welcome to Cross Transformation. It's Mariam here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about why your attachment style doesn't allow you to leave or to let go of a narcissist. Specifically, we want to talk about the disorganized attachment style. As I've said before, this style of attachment incorporates both the anxious and the avoidant styles. With this style of attachment comes a push and pull dynamic that is taking place in us. That push and pull dynamic manifests itself as idealizing versus facing the reality, or swinging between emotional extremes instead of having emotional self-control. Through this push and pull dynamic, we are trying to soothe ourselves. So it is not that we want to stay with that narcissist, it is that we are trying to soothe ourselves through that push and pull dynamic, through idealizing the person, or trying to come out of swinging between emotional extremes. When we try to idealize, we're trying to create a version of that person that doesn't exist, create a version of that reality that doesn't exist. You see, idealizing allows us to trust, to feel safe, to feel loved, and be able to love. You see, that narcissist in the unconscious is the caregiver that we had, because that caregiver was the source of fear and the source of comfort, the source of love and the source of abuse. We ended up idealizing them. Now, we are doing this process with this narcissistic partner because eventually through this process, idealizing the narcissist, we want to convince ourselves that, you know what, that caregiver was trustworthy, that caregiver was able to love. So we're trying to change what is in the unconscious mind by not letting go of this narcissistic partner. Through them, we're trying to experience love or to change the image of that primary caregiver in the unconscious mind. Idealizing, overcoming that push and pull dynamic within ourselves, kind of like self-soothing. We are self-soothing, and that doesn't mean we are interested in that narcissist. Through them, we're trying to reconnect with that primary caregiver, and we are doing it by idealizing them instead of accepting that that caregiver couldn't be there, they weren't trustworthy, they couldn't love, they had their own trauma. So if you're holding on to this narcissistic partner, please realize that there is that push and pull in you. The manifestation of it is that idealization, and through that you're trying to reconnect with that caregiver. The attachment is causing us not to let go of this narcissist because the attachment is trying to be recovered or is trying to reconnect us with that caregiver through idealization. You see, through that idealization, we are trying to experience closeness because that caregiver was the source of fear and the source of comfort. When they got close to us, we were frightened. We just didn't want to be with them. So that is why we decided to idealize, because we have got the safe version sitting there through that idealization, and that is how we can experience closeness. Another reason we're trying to hold on to the narcissist, I'm not letting go of this narcissists because they are facilitating that idealization, and in that idealization, through it, I'm experiencing closeness with that primary caregiver that was the source of fear and the source of comfort, the source of love and the source of abuse. Again, reconnecting, trying to reunite with that caregiver, despite the fact that this guy or this woman is not safe to be with. The idealized version of them is helping us to overcome that push and pull dynamic. Now let's talk about swinging between emotional extremes. Again, because that primary caregiver was the source of fear and the source of comfort, or the source of love and the source of abuse, we couldn't trust them. We couldn't depend on them. We didn't know how to regulate our emotions because the whole time we were afraid of being abandoned. Now, through this narcissist, we're trying to win the heart of that primary caregiver, to regulate our emotions instead of swinging between emotional extremes of love and hate for that caregiver. You see, because of that abusive situation back in our childhood, we felt confused. We didn't know how we were meant to feel, right? We ended up swinging between emotional extremes, from love to hatred to indifference, because we didn't know why that primary caregiver was the way that they were. We decided, like, this is too much, I'm confused, I have to jump from here to there in order to connect with them, in order to overcome that push and pull dynamic within myself. So by holding on to this narcissist, we are trying to somehow regulate our emotions to end that vicious cycle of just going from love to hatred to indifference and just bouncing back, going back through the cycle again. And that cycle, that swinging between emotional extremes, is very tiring. It's quite tiring, challenging. So we're holding on to these narcissists, trying to regulate through them in order to eventually come out of that emotional dysregulation that we experience with that primary caregiver, to end that push and pull dynamic within us. So you see what's happening. That is why our attachment that is sitting somewhere doesn't allow us to experience healthy realities, and that's why we need to do the healing work. The attachment is trying to win the heart of that primary caregiver, to reconnect us, to reunite us with them by arriving at emotional self-control through the narcissist. But that's not going to happen. A narcissist is not dependable. They can't help us with emotional regulation. And that is why we're so tired, we're so drained, still experiencing swinging between emotional extremes. So identify what your attachment is. Otherwise, our attachment trauma is going to attract our partner. We need to understand that with the disorganized attachment assault comes this push and pull dynamic, because we keep idealizing. We're trying to regulate our emotions through somebody else who is very toxic. Deep down, we're trying to reconnect with that primary caregiver. And you know what? We don't need that. We just need to become more secure by identifying these patterns, by allowing ourselves to realize who we are, that we are not that attachment trauma. I keep saying that who you are is love, and it's not that attachment trauma. So instead of overcoming that primary caregiver, the push and pull dynamic, by idealizing, by regulating your emotions through a narcissist. Realize who you are. You're a beautiful child of God. May you be at peace. Hopefully you'll find this video helpful. Look after your precious soul. I'm sending you love. Have a great day and I'll talk to you soon. God bless you.